Enjoy a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis. More than just a summary, which we also include, this feature examines how the author shapes argument, builds influence, and earns or perhaps loses your trust.
Our goal really is to give you the tools to read with sharper insight and greater discernment.
Yeah, should you read this book? This analysis should definitely help. It's also excellent for aspiring writers, I think.
Absolutely. And hey, if you find this expanded format valuable, we'd love to hear from you. Your feedback helps guide our future content.
Okay, let's dive in. I want to unpack this with a challenging question right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
What if some of the most influential political movements you see today, the ones that look, deeply grassroots, highly motivated by faith, what if they're actually the product of a highly coordinated, incredibly well-funded structure?
Less of a movement and more of a shadowy money machine.
Exactly.
Well, that provocative idea is pretty much the engine driving Katherine Stewart's book, Money, Lies, and God. We're going deep into her investigation of what she calls this complex alliance.
Right, between certain far-right religious organizations, these ultra-wealthy donors, and conservative think tanks.
Yeah, all focus, she argues, on a synchronized effort to drastically shift power and policy in the United States.
The claims Stewart makes are, well, they're fundamentally about the structure of modern American power. So our mission for you today is focused.
Right. We're not just summarizing the book story.
No, we're analyzing Stewart's sophisticated rhetorical strategy. We want to see how she uses evidence, structure, and emotional appeal
to build her case and issue this warning, the civic warning that she clearly believes is immediate and, well, existential.
Just before we move forward, a quick note to frame this conversation. You are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM.
Right, designed for deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
Okay, so let's start with the core subject itself. Stewart's book investigates precisely how these networks of big money, deliberate misinformation, and organized religious fervor are strategically harnessed.
Harnessed to advance goals that she believes are fundamentally anti-democratic in their outcome. That's her core claim.
And to really get the weight of her claims, you have to look at the context, right? The exigence, as rhetoricians say. Why write this book now?
Well, it emerges at a time of real anxiety about democratic backsliding. That's undeniable. And it's amplified by the visibility of Christian nationalism and, frankly, mass disinformation. Stewart places her book directly into this political moment, arguing that these coordinated networks are a primary cause of the instability we're seeing. She's writing to sound an alarm, a loud one.
And structurally, the book is incredibly clear, which honestly is a great lesson for any writer working with complex material.
Absolutely. She divides her evidence so logically into three main sections: money, lies, and God.
Each one tackling a central piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and that organization makes it almost impossible for the reader to miss the connection she's drawing between the funding, the propaganda, and the religious justification.
So her purpose seems pretty clear then.
I'd say threefold, really. First, obviously, inform readers about the sheer scope of these efforts. Second, persuade them that the threat they pose to, pluralistic democracy is serious.
I think third.
And third, to explicitly call them to vigilance, to civic action. She's really trying to turn concerned readers into active participants.
Okay, let's pivot to credibility. How does she ask you, the reader, to trust her? Because this is polarizing stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Claims of coordinated political manipulation. They always face intense skepticism. So Stewart needs rock-solid authority, her ethos.
So how does she build that right from the start?
Well, it's built on a foundation of experience. Stewart isn't just some commentator jumping on a trend. She's an experienced journalist.
Right, respected for, what, over 15 years covering this specific intersection of faith and politics?
Exactly, including previous well-regarded books on Christian nationalism. She's been doing this work, tracking these networks, for a long time.
And the evidence itself.
Yeah.
The sheer volume is the anchor, isn't it?
It really is. The main text is maybe 300 pages, but then you look at the back. Nearly 150 pages of notes and references.
Wow.
That level of sourcing is crucial when you're making claims about vast, often kind of secretive financial networks. It tells the reader, look, Every assertion here is tied to something verifiable.
Documentation, yeah.
And that documentation is backed up by her fieldwork, too. She maintains credibility because she goes beyond just reading tax forms or internal memos.
She actually goes to the conferences,
Yeah.
talks to people.
Yeah, she attends the events. She interviews people embedded within these movements, even insiders who've maybe become disillusioned. She's on the ground seeing the dynamics she describes.
Okay. That said, she is transparent about her own position. She acknowledges she's coming at this from a liberal, secular perspective. How does that transparency play out? Does it help or hurt her case?
That's a great question. I think for the civically engaged reader, it actually helps build trust in her honesty, even if you end up disagreeing with her conclusion.
Because she's not hiding her worldview.
Exactly. She's reporting on systems, on documented financial facts. She's not pretending to be totally neutral. But on the flip side,
Yeah.
because the book is so direct in its critique of these specific conservative religious political movements, readers who are already strongly conservative or religiously invested might find the arguments difficult to engage with from the get-go.
Right. Regardless of the evidence presented.
It really requires the critical reader, whoever they are, to practice discernment, to separate the documented facts from the author's interpretation.
Let's shift gears a bit to the mechanics of her argument, her logical structure, the logos. You've got this complex, sprawling network, nonprofits, churches, donors. How does she impose order on that? How does she break down this machine?
She uses a really systematic classification of the actors involved. And honestly, this might be the book's most useful logical framework.
Okay.
She breaks the whole system down into 5 distinct roles. It basically transforms what could seem like a chaotic political phenomenon into something that looks more like a well-oiled organizational chart.
Interesting. What are the roles?
Okay, so first you have the funders. These are the ultra-wealthy, often anonymous donors providing the fuel.
Nice.
Then the thinkers. That's the conservative intellectual infrastructure, the think tanks, the policy shops generating the ideas.
And then it moves down the hierarchy from there. People who actually put those ideas into action.
Precisely. You have the sergeants. These are the seasoned political operatives, the grassroots leaders doing the logistics, the messaging.
Okay.
And then, crucially, the infantry. These are the sincere, everyday church members, the activists. They provide the boots on the ground for protests, voting drives, local organizing.
The human capital.
That's a good way to put it. And finally, the power players, the politicians, the elected officials who ultimately enact the policies that the thinkers created and the donors funded.
It's a very effective classification system. But here's a critical question, I think. Is that 5-part breakdown truly Stewart's objective analysis? Or is it also a rhetorical tool?
How do you mean?
Well, does structuring it that way make the movement seem more monolithic, more centrally controlled, and maybe therefore more menacing than it might actually be in reality?
That's a really sharp point. From a rhetorical perspective, it is brilliant because it deliberately shifts the narrative focus away from, say, local disagreements or organic political passion.
And puts it squarely on coordination and hierarchy.
Exactly. It strongly suggests that nothing is accidental. It serves her logical appeal, her logos, by turning potential chaos into a kind of conspiracy of organization.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, especially for writers trying to build a controversial argument. Stewart consistently uses juxtaposition. She contrasts things powerfully.
Yes, she does. It's a key technique.
Can you give us an example?
Hmm.
How does she contrast the public face of the movement with what she claims is its hidden engine?
Well, the contrast between the God section and the money section is probably the starkest example.
Okay.
She'll show the public rhetoric often framed in deeply moral or religious terms, right? Protecting religious liberty, the sanctity of life.
Familiar phrases.
And then she juxtaposes that with the hidden financial motivations she's uncovered. She might show a massive donation flowing through some opaque dark money group.
Right.
That simultaneously pushes for, say, deregulation that just happens to benefit that specific donor's business interests, that contrast piety versus profit. That's her primary tool for revealing what she sees as the manipulative core.
That kind of revelation must hit the reader on an emotional level too, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about pathos. This isn't just dry financial analysis.
Yeah.
How does she make the reader feel the urgency?
Oh, definitely. The book uses emotional appeal by weaving in these very personal stories. It humanizes what could otherwise be pretty abstract concepts like political lobbying or dark money flows.
And what kinds of emotions does she tap into?
A range, really. Anxiety about the future of democratic institutions, certainly, but also moral indignation about the methods she describes being used by this political machine.
I think for me, the most powerful emotional appeal comes from her portrayal of the exploited foot soldiers, the infantry we talked about.
Ah, yes. That's potent.
She details stories of individuals, whole communities sometimes, who are genuinely looking for spiritual guidance or maybe just social connection.
And find themselves, maybe inadvertently, manipulated into supporting specific political causes. Causes that she argues don't ultimately serve their own long-term interests or the interests of the wider community. That sense of betrayal or potential betrayal, it's a profound emotional hook. It really drives her analysis home for the reader.
And just a quick note here, we're pulling apart Stewart's method to give you deeper insight into strategic nonfiction writing.
Yeah, for those seeking even deeper analysis like this, you can find more mindful moments on our YouTube channel. We offer AI book analysis, summaries, critiques.
All aimed at inspiring reflection and hopefully rational thought. Check it out.
Okay, so moving to her overall tone and style.
Yes.
Stewart's approach is definitely urgent. It's analytical. And you can hear she sounds genuinely dismayed sometimes by what she's uncovering.
But crucially, it stays measured, wouldn't you say?
Precise. Yes, measured is the right word. She largely avoids overly academic or political jargon, which is smart. She favors accessible language.
Makes the complex financial and political stuff digestible for a broader audience.
Exactly. And she uses these strong metaphors, figurative language that really sticks with you.
Like describing the whole operation not just as a network,
but as an engine of unreason. That's a powerful image. It simplifies the abstract idea of coordinated misinformation and gives you this visual of the destructive force she believes it represents.
So when we step back and evaluate the book's overall effectiveness, we also have to talk about its constraints, right?
Yeah, for sure. While it's highly effective, I think, in exposing the strategic and financial underpinnings for readers who are already civically engaged.
That frank liberal perspective, even though it's transparent, does mean the argument is framed through a specific political lens.
Which is just the nature of reporting on highly polarized politics today, isn't it? It inherently requires a reader, any reader, to actively practice discernment.
You have to recognize that while the evidence, the facts, might be documented,
the interpretation of the motives, the why behind it all, is consciously presented from her viewpoint. It's consciously partisan in its interpretation, even if factually grounded.
So in the end,
Stewart crafts a compelling indictment. There's no doubt about that. She does it through meticulous reporting and this systematic dissection of organized networks. Her rhetorical choices anchored in evidence, animated by that urgency, structured logically, they all work together to underscore the gravity of her warnings about democratic vulnerability.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If Stewart successfully demonstrates how strategic financial structures can meticulously create political movements that only appear spontaneous and grassroots, it raises a really important question for all of us, doesn't it? How do we apply this kind of analytical framework to evaluate the sincerity and, maybe more importantly, the financial backing of any populist movement we see?
Regardless of its ideological leaning. Left, right, center.
Exactly. It really changes how you might engage with every headline, every movement that claims to speak for the people.
It demands a deeper look beneath the surface.
Absolutely. Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary, subscribe, share, purchase via the link, and please think rationally.
And see the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.